Welcome everyone to the Maxed Out Money Hour show, coming to you live from Conscious Evolution Media, also on YouTube Live and on Hangouts, Google Hangouts, and we are here with you as usual with Nina DeVerde-Rosa, my co-host, and myself, Coach Steve Toth. I am the founder of Conscious Evolution Media, and this is a very fun show because we get to teach you about finances, which everybody, I'm sure, can use these days. Not that we can't use it other days, but more so these times that we're living in. So let me introduce you to our guest, John Steinberg. Did I say that right, John?
Perfect.
Okay, and he's a venture capitalist, a very unique human being, and we're going to clear up a lot of things about, because there's confusion out there in the world what venture capitalists do and how they do it. And
absolutely.
We're going to get a little closer.
Hey, Steve,
Right?
how are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great. And you?
You're looking wonderful. Well, I'm out here in Las Vegas, and of course we're not hurting for money out here at all. They got a lot of it floating around, so but that's just in the casinos. I don't know about the other part of the world out here. The real estate's not, it's doing okay, but the commercial real estate's not doing that well. It's still got a long way to go. Office buildings are having a tough time, but I think that's all over America, actually. I think that's all over the world because of what we just went through. A lot of people have started businesses at home and don't need offices anymore. So got a little bit of a dilemma there, which we're probably going to ask John about, of how we clear this up and what we do. Right, John? Hey, John, how are you doing?
Fantastic. How are you guys?
Oh, couldn't be better. Well, we got you on the show. How cool? You know, we're not losing. We're winning.
Hey, before we really get going with John, I want to just bring something in from the news.
Good.
And we usually do this at the beginning of the show. And since you mentioned Las Vegas, you know,
Yeah.
you mentioned the casinos and money and all this stuff. And you had a show recently on your other show, one of your other shows, with somebody that you guys were in an engaging conversation about the current Pope. And did you hear that the Pope last week did something that no other Pope has ever done before?
What is that? Because this is what this Pope does. St. Francis.
Yes.
Which is our Pope now.
What he did last week.
He is amazing, this guy. So what has he done now?
Listen to this. Listen to this. What he has done is he has miscommunicated the mafia from the church.
Oh. Well, no, how did he do that?
He went on record publicly and said that those were naughty things that they have been doing.
Yes.
And he doesn't stand for it, and it is not allowed. You cannot be a member of this church, the Catholic Church, and do the things that they do. So he said, if you don't clean it up, then you are being miscommunicated.
Well, I hope he's going to be Pope for a very, very, very long time, because the mafia out there, which is in a majority of nationalities now, not only Italians, it's across the board a little bit now. And I think if that's the case with him, then he's got a long job ahead of him. And good luck to him, because I do agree with that. I mean, you know, try to be clean and good and conscious, you know.
Yeah, and I hope that his security forces now doubled or tripled.
He doesn't have security. Did you know that?
Uh-oh.
He doesn't believe. No, he comes from the old school. Assisi is the St. Francis, which was 1929 was when they had the real sort of priest that never did anything for money. I don't know if you know this, but before all these years, they've been doing everything in money, 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 money. St. Francis, our Pope right now, is not interested in the money side of anything. He wants to live, you know, in a little place. He doesn't want to wear the red cape. He doesn't want to wear the red shoes. He doesn't want to wear. So, you know, he's completely different.
Nina, that disqualifies him to be on our show.
No red cape. Now let me go get my red cape. It's funny you're saying this, because you do know where St. Francis is from.
Yes.
Argentina.
Yes.
Well,
Don't cry
Yay!
Argentina.
Yeah! Go USA!
yeah.
There you go.
I mean, you know, this is kind of with the lining up of the stars. We've got Hand of God wines. We've got the Pope from Argentina. We've got the World Cup going on. This is a perfect time for us to be talking.
Well, absolutely. I've got to say, we've got all this stuff going on, and then there's us. Then there's the three of us.
So John, help our viewers understand a little bit, what is really a venture capitalist, and how do you guys work? Like, you know, I know who you guys are, but I don't count in the show. Who counts is the viewers. So let's clean this up. What is a venture capitalist?
Well, it's funny because, you know, when we start the show off talking about Vegas, right? And to some people, venture capital is a lot like going to the roulette table.
Yes,
You know?
correct. Wall Street and the roulette table.
Except the roulette table may have better odds, right?
Yeah, the Wall Street, you're right at the moment.
I'm quite serious about that. You know, it's funny, I went to Stanford University, and so had as my backyard Silicon Valley. And I saw these companies, you know, even back then, I'm old at this point, but even back then, you know, the Apples and the Intels and these incredible companies that started in a garage.
Yeah,
right?
they started popping up. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I thought, gosh, how do I get to be part of that? And to be part of not just the wealth creation. I mean, that's the amazing kind of afterthought in some sense. It was really about the passion for changing the world. And when I came out of Stanford Business School, I was sure that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? And I didn't know what it was going to look like. And instead, I ended up joining what was a pretty small company, but still bigger than I anticipated, a company in Redmond, Washington called Microsoft. And part of the reason
Just a little company, right? Yeah, okay.
well, it was
Okay. I have to ask this. Okay, so do you own some stock in Microsoft?
not anymore.
Not anymore.
Full
Okay.
disclosure.
I'm
I
sorry
don't.
to hear that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
yeah, I think John's upset to hear that too.
my condolences. My condolences.
Yeah, come down and see
But I am a loyal Microsoft fan friend. I really appreciate how it influenced my life and taught me many things. And part of the reason I decided to go work for this small little company, which was about 2,500 people at the time, was because they truly believed they were changing the world. And it's funny to look back and think about sleeping in my office, thinking about the passion that was in every hall conversation, the idea that we could constantly improve, constantly do better, that there was strong competition that we had to take on. I miss that. I really.
What exactly with Michael? What were you doing with Microsoft? What part were you playing in there?
I was a marketing manager, so I was working on things that don't exist anymore. I'm irrelevant anymore, but things like you know, selling box software into retail stores, right? You know, your kids won't even know what I'm talking about, right?
It's funny.
Yeah, no, it is, and so, but we had to ship product and sell it and go, you know, literally go to names like Babbage's and Computer Stop and these stores that were pretty big chains at the times, and they don't exist anymore, obviously. So, but that's what I was doing. I was focused on what's called channel marketing, and I was just thrilled and inspired to be around some of the smartest people and the hardest working people I'd ever been around, and that's what and it's that environment is what I look for even today in my everyday life. How do I have that inspiration, that passion, that energy, and constant learning, right? That's.
Yeah, well, we have to constantly learn because they're constantly changing. I mean, I just get hold of one thing and then something else comes in, and it's, you know, but that's life how it is now, and that's, you know, the younger generation are very used to this. They're used to the change. They're used to everything happening, so, you know, it's easy for them.
You know what? It's funny. I do a fair amount of interviewing, and it is 100% the case that every younger person, and when I say younger, I mean, you know, in their 20s, early 30s,
yeah.
will say to you, oh, I don't know that, but I'm a fast study. I'm a quick learner. I can learn anything. And it is so funny to me because that wasn't something we would just roll off our tongue before, and they do it because every day there's a new application that they have to figure out.
Yeah,
right?
And they mean it, and they can do it.
Yeah.
And they can do it, but they do it very simply. I mean, it's their natural conversation now. Oh, yes, I can learn that right away. And you look at them and say, oh, okay, fine, you know. And you're right. In our generation, we wouldn't dare say that because we didn't know.
Well, we didn't know, right? I mean, and everything was harder, and things weren't happening so quickly. And that's why wine is such a great alternative. Because guess what? You can't learn wine quickly.
Well, no, you can be a connoisseur of wine, but it all depends what bracket you're in the connoisseuring of wine being.
Right. Well, it's true, and it's a lifelong discovery. And
Yeah.
which is, you asked me about venture capital. One of the great things about being a venture capitalist is it is constantly seeing the next thing. It's
Yeah.
having someone. I mean, for me, it's the luckiest thing ever because I get people coming in to talk to me and tell me about this really cool idea. It's like the best movie, the best book, right? Every single day.
And do you take on some of them? Because I've noticed that in your bio, you kind of take on some yourself, you personally get involved, or you don't, or you give advice. There's a lot of different brackets you float into whatever comes in. So you are actually at a place where you can choose what you would like.
Well, and I feel very fortunate to be able to do that. And sometimes I know I wouldn't be good for them.
No.
And sometimes I don't have advice for them. But what I do like to do is where I see the opportunity to offer maybe some insight, some connection, some matchmaking, some whatever I can do, I want to do it. I want to be able to give back, and that's one of the great things about this entrepreneurial tech world is people. There's a cycle, right? And so you get lucky sometimes, and then you get to give back sometimes, and other people help you. And it really, it's just, it's thrilling, actually.
So how did they actually impress you, John? Because I know a lot of people are scared to death of venture capitalists because, for whatever reason, and different people have different reasons, but they seem to have, venture capitalists seem to have this aura that, it's worse than a banker in terms of seriousness and in terms of wanting to impress you. How does a company impress you so that you end up taking them on and help them?
Well, I think it's not one thing, right? It's a lot of things. It's not even a lot of little things. It's a lot of things, and it's everything from have to start with passion. I mean, you've got to have a person sitting in front of you or a team that so believes that they're going to go do whatever it takes to make this work. And and if it's not there, the meeting should just end.
Yeah.
Right?
So do you get our passion, Ninon's and mine, for broadcasting? Just so far you spent what? You spent 17 minutes with us, but do you get us?
I actually do get it.
Yeah, you gonna spend the whole hour with us? Or we're gonna cut it?
No, look. The other thing is, and this is what most people who are new to the venture capital world or presenting to a venture capitalist don't get. You are always selling. In some form or another, you're always selling. Mm-hmm. And if you can't come in and convince me, sell me on your passion, sell me on your product, sell me the belief that this is going to work, then I know it's not going to work. So in some sense, right?
I think the first thing they have to do is sell themselves. The first thing you really is, when somebody walks in a room, you kind of know whether you like them or not, which is very judgmental, maybe not right, but unfortunately that is how it really is. And I think for our younger generation should know that, because as soon as you walk in a room, we judge, and that's bad, but it's the way it is. And then after that, you slowly think, oh, well, great, they got kind of a style to them, I like them, and then you go from there. But you have to like them first, don't you? Yeah, well, and I can even bring this back to wine at some point, but the truth is, you better sell yourself.
Always wine.
He's determined with his wine. I'm going to go get myself a glass of wine.
We know what John is passionate about.
Yeah, I can see there's 3 bottles there, too.
Just in case this doesn't go well.
So far, so good.
So think about it. Don't sell yourself when you come into that room. Sell yourself before you get in the room.
That's right. Oh, what a great word. Oh.
No, it's true, right? Who referred you? Is it someone I know and trust? How much homework have you done, and what's the interaction been like in setting up the meeting? How have you prepared me for the meeting? There's a bunch of things you can do to so that I'm not judging you in the first minute. I've already thought this is going to be a successful meeting.
Yes.
Wow, that's very good.
Well, isn't that?
And I know you're laughing because I'm going to bring it back to wine, but the truth of the matter is, if I tell you enough tonight about my wine and why I think it's pretty good, you'll go into opening that cork with an expectation and an anticipation.
Absolutely. But well, since we keep coming back to the wine, let's just get into the wine so we can let our audience know, rather than the sort of thing, the anticipation of what's going on with wine. So let's just get in there. Oh God, we've got him going now. Why, you are sort of in financial, you're in all this stuff, and then all of a sudden we bring wine into it. Where did this wine come from, and how did you start it, and what did you do?
Sure. So sometimes the short version is I took a left turn at Albuquerque. And it truly is the case that I wasn't planning this. And yet, I love food and wine. I've been going to Napa since 1978, and believe me, I got romanced by the fruit and by the vine. Romanced by the stone, I got romanced by the vine, and I thought someday maybe, right? But the wine business, and if we can make it through this whole show without telling the little joke that everyone tells about the wine business, we will have succeeded tonight. But the wine business is notorious for not being easy, right? And it is not for the faint of heart. And it is true that it is a long game. The difference between venture capital and technology is you can actually create a somewhat of an overnight success. You can see it take off. Wine's not like that. The vine doesn't grow that way. It doesn't mature that way.
No.
Experience it differently. And so, if you can be an overnight success in 10 years, you're doing pretty well.
Pretty well. Well, that's not bad.
But that's now 8 years later. 8 years ago, I went to Argentina because every single year I try and leave the United States just to get some perspective. It's my thing. Like, if I'm in the United States for more than 365 days consecutively, I'm starting to lose a little world perspective. So every year I pick some place just to go see it. And
awesome.
That year happened to be Argentina. And it was kind of on every, insider traveler, have you been to Argentina? It's really great. And they had gone through their crisis, and so it was really affordable. And it was kind of, a worn-down Paris of Latin America, and the people are beautiful. And God, the steak, and the Malbec.
Oh, Argentina steak,
Right, exactly, right? So I went, and you know what? Turns out, pretty good place to go visit, and I recommend it. As an aside, a friend said, you're not that far from Mendoza, which is this famous large wine region. You like wine, why don't you just go see it? And there's a guy out there, it turns out I went to Stanford with, and he said, come visit me. And I thought, okay, why not?
Yeah, why? Little adventure.
Yeah, a little adventure. And I went out to visit my friend Santiago Achával, and I had an epiphany. And I don't know if you've had this yet, because it doesn't happen all the time, and some people never have it. But I tasted his wine, and I understood the concept of terroir. I understood the concept of place. I understood the concept of dirt that shone through the wine. That he has these 3 wines that are 100% Malbec from 3 different vineyards, and it was an epiphany. Wow. That's why, I thought, my God, if this guy was willing to make my wine, I'm going to buy some land here, because I want to share that with my friends and with other people. And
how beautiful.
No, but that's actually how it happened. And,
so this was not really a money thing. This was like a passion of yours. This is something that turned into a passion because you didn't realize you had it before.
Look, I'm not. I wish I was so wealthy that I didn't need it to be a money thing. There's certainly a business angle to this and a business case for this. And the truth is, if you want to hear that in a nutshell, it's simple. Argentina can produce world-class wines, rivaling anywhere in the world.
Yes.
And yet, the vineyard at the time was 1/50th to 100th the cost of Napa or France. So right? So there was this arbitrage opportunity to create great wine, but to do it with inputs that were far less expensive than other places in the world.
And they're also the best kept secret, aren't they?
And it's been a best kept secret. We're trying to change that.
Well, we're doing it right now. We're doing that right now, John. Keep on.
It's true. Even back, this was 2007, and back then, Malbec was just, everybody was discovering it. It was like, wow, have you tried a Malbec yet? And now it's on every list, of course, right? And what we're trying to do is say, okay, you guys have experienced that $15, $20 Malbec. Let me show you something equal to a Napa Valley Cab. Let me show you something equal to a great French Bordeaux. And so that's now the next level, I think, that we're going to show people. But yeah, I mean, it was, and the reason, I'll give you a fun fact. Argentina produced more wine than almost any place in the world, but it never went outside because they drank so much of it.
Well, they always say, well, you know about all these countries. They keep the good wine to themselves, and whatever wine they don't want, that's what they ship out.
It is just like Hungary. You know, I'm from Hungary, John, and we make incredible wine in Hungary, but we drink it ourselves, and we don't send it elsewhere.
No, it's true. It's absolutely true. And so the other thing that happened is if international investment started coming into Argentina and saying, God, we want to be part of this whole thing. And so the techniques, the resources, everything has gotten better and better and better. And so the rising tide here has continued to make the wine get better, and I think the experience for people. And even if you visit Argentina and Mendoza today, it's night and day different 8 years later. It's not Napa. It'll never be Napa, thankfully, but it's really a fun place to go visit.
But let me ask you a question, because you're talking about having a business very far away from where you live.
That's hard.
Now, majority of people say that is a risk and that is really hard to do, and how do you keep an eye on it from people taking stuff, stealing, and not keeping the correct books? How do you keep that going, and how do you sort of control it?
I'm not sure you do. I struggle with that. I'm going to be completely honest here. I have found that I was naive. I'm going to tell you right now, I was completely naive as to how hard that would be.
Yeah.
And that's a long discussion, and someday maybe I'll write a book about it. But
you should.
You have really hit on a subject that's real.
It is. I know it's real.
Not ignored. And Argentina, you know, speaking of mafia, Argentina's full of Italians.
Well, yeah, of course.
And believe me, the
mafia escaped from Italy and went to Argentina so they could sort of live, you know, and do their thing. The reason I was asking that question is because I can remember there was a banker who did all very large loans, extremely big loans, and my husband and I were going to buy some property, and in Miami we were going to buy this hotel. And he gave us some advice. He said, don't ever, unless you're going to live there, he said, don't ever buy anything more than half an hour to an hour away from where you live that you can get to it. He said, because otherwise it is so hard to run it, to take care of it. So that's why I asked that question, because you are a businessman, obviously, what you do. And this kind of hit me in a different way from what you did. You know?
So this is a very multifaceted subject. Let me say it, you know, and I'm happy to go deep into it. But I will say, you know, part of my thinking was two things. One is Santiago is a dual citizen. He's my winemaker and he's my partner down there. So having someone who speaks perfect English, who knows both cultures, who's a successful businessman, wine person already, gave me a lot of comfort.
Good.
And then there was another group of Americans down there doing some really interesting things in Mendoza that I also worked with quite closely. So I did have some things in place. Having said that, I have continued to be surprised, and I have to tell people, you better go in eyes wide open and check twice and talk to people, because it is hard. Argentina is not the easiest place to do business.
No, well, it's a foreign country, you know.
So hang on for a second. So I'm just reading between the lines here, but I think we better make this absolutely clear to the viewers that what I'm hearing, I think, is that you invested in this thing. You put your own money into this, right?
Right.
Did you also get other people's money, since you're probably hugely connected?
I actually spent a fair amount of money, real money, to do a PPM, to do a offering, to get other people to invest. And as I was going through the process and learning more about what it was going to take to be successful, I ultimately said I'm not going to take anyone else's money, because I didn't have enough faith that being involved in a foreign country, doing this kind of business, would lead to the outcome that I thought I wanted my friends to be involved with. And so I actually pulled it. I decided not to take it. And I had close to $1 million raised, and so I could have taken that, but it just didn't feel right to me.
I think that's an incredible statement, John, because you felt very honorable to other people. And I think when people see that, when you're dealing with so much money, which you are all the time dealing with money, this makes you very, very honorable, taking their money to a strange country, and you decided, no, I'll take the risk myself and not involve them. I think that's amazing.
Well, I mean, I just, life is long, hopefully, and relationships are deep, and, I couldn't, these are people I want to do business with for the next 20, 30 years, and so I had to feel good about it.
So how do you feel about now, at this present time, having a business in Argentina, the wine business? I mean, it's kind of, in Europe, we call this kind of a luxury, because normally people that have wineries and everything in Europe, because I'm from England, normally we come from very well-to-do families, and they can afford to actually keep a winery going, and that's what we think of wineries. Wineries are rather a luxury thing to have that you can afford to lose or gain, or doesn't really matter. How are you feeling about it right now?
Well, look, I mean, I think I'm a little bit. No pun intended, sober about the work and the hard work it's going to take to be ultimately successful. But I feel good about our positioning. I feel great about our product. I feel like I'm learning how to navigate the waters.
The wine.
I'm seeing light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, the thing about this business, step back for 1 second. It's the worst business model I can imagine in some sense, because you start 7 years out, right? Mm-hmm. You don't even get grapes for the first 4 years, and then when you finally get grapes, you got to go spend a bunch of money and put them in barrels, and you got to guess how much wine are you going to be able to sell, right?
Right.
And meanwhile, every single year you got to keep developing the vineyard. So 7, 8 years later, right?
So you're not making any money for 7 years. You just spend it.
Right.
Well, that's a 10-year, as you said at the very beginning, it's a 10-year haul, and that's why I was saying it's only people that have got the money behind them, which is well-to-do people that can afford to have this, because it's a 10, 15-year money going in.
Right. And yet, there are ways to do this where you don't have to have a vineyard. You can go buy fruit and start very small. If your listeners want to be in the wine business, there are ways to be in the wine business. You don't have to do it the way I did it. For me, partly, I wanted to own some land in Argentina, partly because, this is a little bit of a side note, I had just had a daughter, and I wanted to leave a little legacy to her, and I thought this was one of the most beautiful places I'd ever been in my life, standing in front of these extraordinary Andes Mountains. So part of it was that for me. There's a whole bunch of reasons why we do things that we do. But if someone wants to get in the wine business, there is you don't have to go
easier way.
But there's an easier, there's a small way, right?
You took the hard road.
I did. I did. I took it.
Okay, but here's why this is also cool. Why this is also cool to me is that you are walking the talk. So you're not one of those venture capitalists that just knows how the business works and it's connected and can make things happen. You actually are doing what you expect other people to do.
Well, it's funny. Many venture capitalists have a bad rap. I don't know if it's a bad rap, but have a rap that, they sit in their ivory tower, and what do they really know about running a business? And here they are acting like the expert, right? No, really. Okay, Okay,
That's where I was going.
I got the medals. You know what? You want to talk to me about running a business? I'm happy to talk about that.
Good for you.
Firing, hiring, budgets. Yeah, I got it. I'm there. I'm doing it, and I love it. I mean, I really. How can I sit here and talk to a young entrepreneur and act like the expert and having never done it? I need to go.
No, you can't. So where are we going now with this financial situation? What is the strong part right now that we can give our audience that they see sort of a light at the end of the tunnel like you did with your winery and saw a light at the end of the tunnel? Where can people now start investing, or where can they start owning their own businesses? What is the trend right now? Where can they go?
Well, that's such a broad question. I mean, I want to be a little careful about offering expertise and advice. I mean, are you talking about the wine business? Are you talking about the stock market?
Forget the wine business.
I think we need to keep it subjective, and we need to kind of keep it not be so general.
Yeah, right.
You know, just anybody that's thinking
what I said,
about
anybody
that's thinking about getting in touch with a venture capitalist, making sure that they ready. Like what makes somebody ready to start talking to a venture capitalist? Where do you have to be?
Well, okay. So let me take a shot at that question. I think if I could reframe it slightly.
You can.
If you think that you want to be an entrepreneur and you think that you want to go start a company, right?
Yes.
I think this is the best time in the history of the world to do it.
Wow.
Because there are so many resources available. And not just money, but there is money available. Right? But there are communities set up to support entrepreneurs. There's all kinds of online learning for entrepreneurs. There are so many resources available. So if that's what you think you want to go do, I say absolutely. But here's the thing that not enough first-time entrepreneurs do, and it's called the friends and family test. They go out and they say either they finance it a little bit with their own money, and then they hit the wall and they go, what do I do now? I better go to a venture capitalist. Take whatever idea you have and go talk to some of your smartest friends. And
they go to the banks first, John, and they laugh at them.
Right. Well, that's right.
Well, the small business,
Right. But what you want to do is you want to find some smart friends, and you want to say, if I did this, would you put money in? And if you're getting no's across the board, that's pretty good market data.
Then don't put your own money in it. If they won't put money in it, then
No, I want you to put some of your own money in. I want to know that you've got a stake in the game. But what I'm saying is you've got to think about not the first and second step, but the third and fourth and fifth step, and know if this is going to be successful, are you going to need to raise money? And if you're just thinking about it when you get to the third step, it's too late. So what I do is I say to people, I have an idea.
So are you talking about angel investors here? Is that what you're talking about?
It could be. It doesn't. I mean, we're applying it to angel investing and venture capital, but it could be any business. I mean, I met today with two guys who knew each other from childhood, who started a salad restaurant business in Seattle. And I actually thought what they were doing was really interesting, and they were really passionate. And they're out there raising money from friends and family. But they have a credible story of how much it's going to take to build the second, third, fourth, and fifth one. And what they've done, which is so important, is they're not doing it by themselves. They're doing it with people who have done it before. So I said, who are your investors, right? And they've got these incredible investors who have a very famous pizza chain or a very famous pasta company so they've got people, they're surrounding themselves with winners and experienced entrepreneurs. And so guess what? I'm starting to feel better about their chances.
Of course you are, because you know it's secured.
Right.
You know that they're going in the right direction. They're not just sort of pulling a pot out and sort of trying to do something that they don't know anything about.
That's exactly right. So all I'm saying is, get yourself a board of advisors, get yourself some really smart friends, start asking them if they think this is a good idea, ask them to kick holes into it, right? Ask them to say, why wouldn't they put money into it? What milestones do you have to hit before they'd be excited about it?
Now, isn't it all? But also, isn't it? It takes at least 3 years to get a business going to really make a profit and really make money. Is it still that 3 years? Because that's always been the case of, you
not in technology. I mean,
no, technology, no.
Right, but other business. I mean, it's hard to generalize. So
but roughly 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it does take. You've got
to financially have a 3-year backing.
Yeah, well, right. And what I think you're really saying is people have to understand so many businesses. I think back to my grandparents. Man, they were living at the store. They were paying themselves just a little bit, but mostly not. But it was over time. They treated their customer. I mean, we've kind of forgotten what it used to be like. Produce a good product, treat your customers really right, repeat over and over.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Guess what?
Keep the customer happy, because that's all you've got.
I mean, that's right at the end of the day. And in this day of everybody's being the expert about that was a good meal or that was a bad experience or this, you really have to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
Yelp and Facebook and everybody's shouting, hey, did you see this? Did you hear this? Right?
But in the meantime, come down to reality.
That's right.
Take care of your customer that actually walks in your door.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but let me also interject just a crazy thing. Since you're in Seattle, there is a coffee company there that's fairly well known worldwide.
Yeah.
And when they first went to the bank, and they said, here's the business plan, and we're going to charge $4. We're going to charge $4 for a coffee. The bankers laughed at them.
Yeah, that's right.
And they said, don't, get out of here and don't let the door hit you in the ass. And look what happened.
It is a fantastic. I mean, everybody should learn about Howard Schultz and his passion. And literally, he had to have more than 100 meetings with friends, family, angel investors before he could raise his money. But he was so certain of his vision. I mean, if you talk to people who were in those meetings with Howard and the people that invested, it's incredible, right? And that's exactly, I mean, I remember in 1988 when I came to, I'm really dating myself, in Seattle, I came to Seattle. One of the first things I did is I called Howard Schultz out of the blue.
Really?
And it was a very small company then. And I said, listen, man, I think what you're doing is incredible. Would you meet with me to have a cup of coffee? And and he said, sure. No one's ever asked me this.
Right? Oh my God, that's cool.
What do you want to talk about? I said, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I just want to meet you. And I did incredible things. And so, I mean, he taught me a lot. We remained friendly. I've stayed in touch all these years. And he's really an inspiration for me, what he's been able to do. And I think it's important. Again, I come back to the first part. If we think about what we talked about, I was inspired at Microsoft. I'm surrounding myself with people who inspire me. I'm trying to do something that inspires others. I mean, that's the theme here.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very good trend, because that's what we're trying to do, and I think that's what we're trying to help other people, to go into business that are not aware of business. So they come to you because they want to get the questions. Should they do this? Should they do that? And you have the answers for them. But I think it's advisable that most people that are going to go into business go to see somebody like you so they can get the advice, so they can actually understand what it is to go in business. I mean, we three on this show all know what it is like to go into business. It's a lot of hard work.
It's a ton of hard work. It's amazing how many people say to me, oh my God, if you're in the wine business, that must be fun.
Oh, sure. Hello.
Yeah, hold on, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's all we do all day.
Tons of fun.
It's a second drink.
Tasting wine all day.
All right.
But it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of staying focused, a lot of hard work, and a lot of money. And if you don't have all those three things,
no, I mean, and it's what did Churchill say? Never, ever give up. And it's really the doggedness. It's really the tenacity. And I know that just sounds so uninspiring and so boring, but it
sounds quirky, but it's very true. I mean, it's like so so Ninon and I, we both have spent more than a decade in this broadcasting business,
Oh,
and
yes.
individually, and that's what it takes. It takes, somebody said, I don't know who to give credit to this. I have to look it up. But you got to spend minimum 10,000 hours, and Ninon spent a lot more than that before you can call yourself something of a master at something, that you mastered something.
There's a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I think that's the problem with the majority of people. Majority of people want the quick way in, the quick way out, and they think it's that easy, but it's not easy. And they always see these multimillionaires and these millionaires, and they say, oh, they're so lucky. I know, you know, John, you also know that this has taken time, it's taken work, and it was not lucky. It's a lot of hard
I want to
work.
make one. I don't know if you have younger listeners, but I want to make a point. There is such an opportunity today for people entering the workforce and early in their careers not to jump to something every single year. I get resumes now. It's like, did you stay anywhere for more than a year and a half?
Yeah.
If you would actually stay somewhere for 5-6 years, you will learn so much about a maturity and a life cycle and what happens in a company that you'll never discover in a year.
I love that. I love that message.
Right, and you will have something that no one else will have, because no one does that anymore.
No, and that's absolutely true, because they do jump around, and I think we definitely need to talk. The younger generation did not have the guidance that I think all three of us had, or what we taught ourselves to have, of to stay with something, stick to it, and work hard. The generation now, we've got a lot of the young people are not being taught that. Their families are sort of, I don't know where they are, but they're not, you know, they don't have these mentors.
The next bright, shiny object. And
Yeah.
I get it. There's a ton of opportunity, and I don't want to be the one that says, oh, you know, bah humbug, or whatever the expression is, that you shouldn't go after your passion and see an opportunity and go for it. But I also think there's just movement for the sake of movement.
Yeah, stick to that opportunity, stick to that vision.
And what about this other quirky idea is that, you know, just in case, you know, if you want to be a winemaker, let's just pretend for a minute that somebody is watching this show and they want to be a winemaker. What about the concept of going to work with a winemaker for a while just to learn the business and what you're getting into?
Well, and there is a hundreds of years old concept of apprenticeship, right?
Yes.
Learn from the masters, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
we had that in Europe a lot. You'd have a three-year apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Whether you want to be the hairdresser, an accountant, didn't matter what you wanted to be. You would actually have 3 years, which you would get like a minimum wage. But what you would get a certificate at the end of 3 years that you'd actually done that work and you knew all about it, and then you go to the next level.
Right. Well, have you guys ever seen, speaking of, I'm sort of a crazy foodie, and I watch every food movie. Have you ever seen that movie, Jiro, Dreams of Sushi?
No.
Sounds pretty cool, though.
This is a guy that's done nothing.
I'm trying to put less and less food in my mouth, so I don't watch it.
Good idea, Steve. Very good
Thanks,
idea.
Ninon. I know you appreciate it.
Steve, 1 second. Is it working?
All right. They're good. The show's going to the fish. But
I was just in New York, and I ate very little. I can tell you that, and I have witnesses.
but this guy has done nothing his whole life but perfect making sushi. And his sons and the apprentices do nothing but every single day do the same thing. And it's extraordinary. The result is it's extraordinary. And, you know, I really think paying dues and learning from people who have done it before, and part of it gets back to this concept is, you know, it's something new, no big deal. I'll just learn it because I'm a fast learner. There's learning and there's learning.
Yeah. You know, I've always advised the younger generation that whatever you're doing, and you're going to be, say, in a place from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock, you're going to be there anyway. So why don't you just do the best job there than anybody else? You're going to be there. You've got to work it. So don't just fiddle around and try to pass the day over. Do the best you can and become a perfectionist at whatever you do. And I think that needs to be drilled into a lot of our quality now, because our quality is getting less and less. But I think we need that very much so.
Yeah, no, it's again, we talk about success and money and the workforce. I will say this, that the wine industry, you asked me kind of where I am now, it's a very grounding place, the wine industry. It's grounding because it has to do with the earth. Mm-hmm. There's a certain magic that is wine, because I know what it takes now to the end product, how many people were involved, and how many things had to come together. And so when I drink wine now, it actually allows me to breathe and be mindful. And so for me, I'm going to work really hard during the day, but I am going to have that glass of wine, and it is going to be the grounding moment of my life every single day that I do that. And
well, you've become a connoisseur of wine, and so you understand from the very beginning, and let's just turn this wine thing into a business deal. So you've found out from the very beginning what it's taken to grow this, and no pun intended, but to put it all together and see the consequences at the end. And this is the same, this applies to any business, doesn't it?
That's what I'm saying. And I'm also saying that you keep using the word connoisseur, which is fine. I'm not really a connoisseur. I really am not. I have just decided to take the time to enjoy this incredible product. And anybody can do it. And the nice thing is, it's just practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, but you know a good glass of wine. Come on, give me a break.
Come on, but so do you, and so do anybody who actually takes time to start to practice. I mean, taste wine. I've tasted a lot of wine. I've been fortunate to be around it. But I don't have my palate's as average as they come. And all I'm saying is, wine has this crazy, mystical, scary, intimidating, what are the words you want to use, quality to it. And it doesn't need to be that.
Just like venture capitalists, so there's no wonder. Right. So there's no wonder you connected with it. So let's talk a little bit about marketing and branding. So where did this name, Hand of God Wines, came from?
Funny you should ask.
What is Hand of God? This is pretty cool.
Where did that come from?
Picture or not?
The Last Supper, they drink wine.
It's funny. I got a lot of pushback when I came up with the name Hand of God, and some people didn't even want to work with me. A designer said, "I'm not going to work with you with that name." I've had some people say to me, "That's the most arrogant name I've ever heard."
Wow.
Does this mean that you automatically lost all the potential clients that don't believe in God?
No, actually.
Actually, we gained a few of them.
I'm just testing you.
No. So I guess I should ask you, do you know the story or not? You probably did research. Do you know the story?
No, I'm going to say no because I want to hear you tell the story.
Yeah, right, of course. But whenever someone says why the name, and I get that question all the time. First of all, I am thrilled that I get that question, because what other brand, people don't go, why Apple? Apple made their name another way, but no one ever says, why Apple? Why Microsoft? Why Chrysler? Why I mean, nobody ever asks that. I get a conversation starter every single time.
Awesome.
Why did you call it Hand of God? And I'm like, great, we get to have a conversation. And then what I say to them, I say, well, what do you think about the name? And that informs me a great deal. That informs me if they're attracted to the deity portion of it. It informs me if they know the reference in that picture. It informs me if they're just attracted to the spirituality of making wine, right?
Right.
And the answer is, it's all of those.
I was going to say, it's all of that. It's God.
But let me go back and tell you why I specifically used it for an Argentine wine that I was coming out with that we're making at a very high level at a premium price. Why would I use the name Hand of God? Well, again, what I'm trying to do with my wine.
Plus, you're Jewish, right?
I am, and don't mention that the letters Hand of God spell H-O-G. My mother would be very upset. But not that hog aside, The
Yeah, HOG.
The truth is, what I'm trying to do is create a wine that's memorable. And I want to be part of the moments of life, whether it's around a dinner table, whether it's with friends, where we create moments together. And they are the moments. That's the fabric, the richness of life. And I want Hand of God to be in the center of that as often as possible. If you say to an Argentine, where were you when Hand of God happened? They will tell you what they were wearing, who they were with, what they were eating, where they were. For them, it is the pinnacle of the fabric of life.
A memorable time.
And it happened in June of 1986 when they won the World Cup, which right now, of course, we're in the middle of it.
Yes.
When they won the World Cup, in part because of this goal, right? This goal where I don't know if you can even see that, but
we can see it. Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah, we can see it.
yeah. So this is where Diego Maradona hits a ball clearly off his hand, and Argentina wins the World Cup. And afterwards they said, hey, Diego. And they didn't have replay, right? So everybody saw it except the referee. And they said, Diego, that went off your hand. He said, no. That went out the hand of God. And
wow. Shivers. Wow.
So literally, the headlines the next day were Mano de Dios, right? And
yes.
Everybody refers, I mean, this is the most famous World Cup soccer moment in the history of the most important sport in the world. And so when people say to me, so is it a religious reference? I say absolutely. You know the world's largest religion? Soccer. 2.5 billion fans.
There you go.
Right?
What a story, though. Because nobody would ever connect that story.
What I'm finding interesting also in this, I got to share this, John, because I grew up in Hungary and I grew up with soccer. When I came to this country, I didn't know any of these American sports like football and baseball. I knew nothing about it.
Sure.
And I taught all my kids, my 2 sons, how to play, including my daughter. And I was a soccer coach, throughout the school life, blah, 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 blah. But for decades in this country, since I've been living here, nobody really gave a you-know-what about soccer.
That's right.
All of a sudden, yesterday, I am at the airport because my plane is delayed 2 hours. And all of a sudden, all Americans are at every bar lining up. You can't even see the video terminals.
Absolutely right. This is a fundamental shift.
Yes.
It's never happened in this country.
Yes.
And now it is. And so I am thrilled to be part of this. And let me tell you something.
And I'm having, what do you call these, goosebumps? I'm having goosebumps.
No, I walked down the street with this jersey, and people engaged me in a conversation. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, forget it.
Yeah.
And I happen to live in Seattle, which has gone soccer bananas. I mean, it's amazing what's happening in this city. And I have to tell you, okay, this is not made up. So when I first got into Argentina and wine and
nothing we do on this show is made up. Right?
No, I didn't. People say, were you really passionate about soccer? I said, yeah, I mean, kind of, but I didn't grow up with it. I grew up in Nebraska where Cornhusker football ruled, right? I mean, that's what I grew up with, okay? But I said, yeah, I like soccer. It's really interesting. So I don't know if you know, the last Argentine game, they're playing Iran. They go to the 90th minute. They're going to tie or lose, and Messi, the greatest player in the world today, scores a goal. I'm like, I get it. That's my epiphany. I get it. I am hugging the person next to me I don't know. My daughter is like, Daddy, settle down. I got into it, man. And I really, and the beauty of the sport is now become apparent to me. So it's pretty cool.
You're very animated, John, and it's amazing. I love your energy. I love how you feel. And I love how you tell the story, because that is a story which I don't think most people know or would understand. Hand of God. Why you named your winery that? Except everybody from Argentina knows exactly the answer.
Right. Oh my gosh. They walk in. You can't see my pop-up restaurant in Seattle, but I have a huge picture of that goal. And when I've literally had Argentines walk in and start crying.
Wow.
I mean, really.
So
look what you
John, is this wine in this country yet? Can I go buy it?
Yes, of course you can buy it. You can buy it in 11 different states, or you can buy it directly from me. And for your viewers, if they send me an email, I'll take good care of them in a special way.
I'm sending you an email because I want some.
We're gonna check it out.
handofgodwines.com, and we got.
In addition to that, before we close out the show, I want to make sure you do something for all of our viewers. Take the most intimidating and the most boring subject matter in business when people are thinking about going in to a meeting with a venture capitalist which is presenting a business plan. Please give us a few pointers so that people don't get so intimidated about a business plan and that they take it a little bit lighter than how most people take it, which is that people work hundreds of hours on these things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can't. Again, I think it's really the notion that don't go into that meeting with the venture capitalist not already have had that meeting. Don't go in and never have had a conversation with them. Don't go into that meeting not having learned the background. Don't go into that meeting not knowing what they've invested in before. It's no different, really, than you're going into an interview, right? Venture capitalists, by the way, you have to understand something. They are likely to say no. Know that going in. Most venture capitalists make one investment for every 100+ deals they look at. So you already are probably going to get a no. So you can't judge the result based on that. What you can do is go, I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to make this guy at least think twice about what I'm doing. And if I'm really good, he's going to give me advice and maybe
learn something.
And other people that I can go see.
And he'll give you other. If you don't want it, then he'll give it to. Then you as a person.
Then you've succeeded.
There you go. So I think what I heard, I just want to make sure. What I heard is don't put all your focus, like all of your eggs, into the darn business plan, because that's not where it's at.
Well, and don't put all your eggs in the outcome of that meeting.
Right.
Right? And go
be
meet.
open.
Right.
Be open. Listen and be open.
Which is what your show is about. So that's actually perfect.
And have fun.
Yeah. Life is fun. Yeah, Steve, you said it right. Yeah, life is fun. So do something. Put the energy of being fun and being exciting, and this is something you're going to go into, and this is sort of your dream and everything else. But also have a little sense of humor. Be open. Be very, very open to listen and understand, and maybe go somewhere else. Just because they don't want you, that's not a put down.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just have to repeat it. Don't go to the venture capitalist first. Go practice on mom. Go practice on a friend. Don't let that be the first time you've presented that idea.
And practice on the bankers.
Yeah.
They also always say no.
They say no anyway.
Get desensitized.
Desensitized, yes.
By no. So that it doesn't even occur as no. It's just next.
Yeah, right.
Well, there's no such word as no unless you say it. So, you can always go to the next one, You'll find somebody eventually that'll absolutely love what you've got. So don't take that no seriously. It's just a no on their side, not your side.
Well, and the other thing since we're closing out that comment, is I always like to leave by saying, thanks for your time, and by the time I see you next, I will have accomplished this, and that, and I look forward to telling you about our success. Right?
Awesome.
Let them know you're not done.
No.
You're going to hear from you again.
Yeah. That's encouraging.
Very, very awesome. I want to make sure also before we close out the show that you mentioned, how can people get a hold of you if they're interested in learning more about you and from you?
Yeah, sure.
What do you want to give them? Your website, whatever you feel comfortable with.
I'm pretty open. I'm easy to find. The website is www.handofgodwines.com. I'm just John without an H at handofgodwines.com. It's fun. We're playing right now a World Cup game that you can win wine for until the next World Cup if you are the winner, if you pick the brackets. So feel free to send me an email and I'll send you the game. And I hope you get to try the wine. We have dinners around the country. We can get on that list if you're interested. and I look forward to sharing a glass of wine with all of you in the near future. It's been.
What was that? What was that email address again for the competition?
Yeah, well, send it to me, John at handofgodwines.com, and I'll send an email back to them.
Okay, great.
Or they can go directly to my website. It's on there too.
What's your website?
handofgodwines.com.
Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, John, you were so much fun and so easy to talk to. I hope that all of our viewers get that venture capitalists are also human beings, and they like to have fun, and they like to have they like to have their passions, just like all of us, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've failed so many times, I don't even count them anymore. I've been lucky in other situations, but at the end of the day, let's surround ourselves with great people, get inspired, and have a good glass of wine.
Oh, I agree. Awesome.
And I certainly hope that anybody that's watching this show live right now or watching it as a replay, if they were touched, moved, and inspired by anything that John, Ninon, or I said or did, that you would engage with us on ConsciousEvolutionMedia.com, and also make sure that you keep watching this show and other shows that we have on YouTube, which we have more than 1,400 of them. Keep watching to make sure that this show gets onto the top 10. If it gets up to the top 10, then we'll take it to PBS. Thank you so much, Ninon, and thank you so much, John. You guys were fantastic. For everybody else, we'll see you next time, same place, same time, always on ConsciousEvolutionMedia.com on Tuesdays evening at 7 o'clock Mountain, 6 o'clock Pacific, and that would be 9 o'clock Eastern. Thank you, guys. I love you all. See you next time.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Steve.
Yes, great.